Hi guys, how are you? So today we are going to continue with our analysis of market structure, particularly focusing on imperfect competition. So by the time we are done with this session, you guys have to understand what imperfect competition is. You have to understand the different market structures at this level, your oligopoly, monopolistic competition, and monopoly. So be able to draw these graphs in the short run and in the long run and be able to compare all these market structures. I hope you guys will enjoy this session. All right, let's get into it. A monopoly. A monopoly is a market structure that is like the complete opposite of perfect competition. So in a monopoly, you're going to have one firm that dominates the market. So you have one firm that dominates the market. This firm sells one product that is unique, and it's difficult to enter or leave that market. So we're going to say the entry into this market is restricted. The entry into this market is restricted. Information is said to be complete. The information is said to be complete. Because it's only one firm, collusion becomes irrelevant, because collusion is the coming together of firms to decide on the output or prices. So because it's only one firm, collusion is irrelevant. The firm, because it's the only firm, definitely has market power. So we say this firm is a price maker. The firm has market power, so we say it's a price maker. The demand curve is downward sloping, and a monopoly can make economic profit in the long run. So it will definitely make positive economic profit in the long run because there is no competition in the market. The curve for a monopoly is going to look like this. The vertical axis shows the price and the costs. The horizontal axis shows the output Q. The demand is inelastic, it's downward sloping, yes, but it's inelastic because it's one product, and hence the demand for that product is not sensitive to price changes, hence it's highly inelastic, which means whether the price goes up or down, people will still buy the product. And when the product is highly inelastic in demand, it has a steep demand curve. So this is the demand curve, which is the same as the average revenue curve. The marginal revenue curve falls below the average revenue curve. So the marginal revenue would be here, and the marginal cost curve is a J. So the average total cost curve would look like this. This would be the average total cost curve, and the marginal cost curve would look like a J, like this. All right, and remember, the firm always maximizes its profit by producing an output at a point where the marginal cost is equal to the marginal revenue, where this curve meets this curve, this point here. That is the point at which the firm produces its output. But they won't charge this price because this is not a competitive market. They have to go all the way up to the steep demand curve until they touch this demand curve, and the price is going to be charged along the demand curve. This is the price. All right, this is the price. And if you take the minimum point of the average total cost curve, this price, which is the average revenue, minus the average cost times the quantity, would give you the profit. This area shows the abnormal profit that a monopoly is going to make both in the short run and in the long run. So this profit is abnormal. It's not normal. It's abnormal profit or positive economic profit. So it can also be referred to as positive economic profit. All right. So the things to remember here, the demand curve is above the marginal revenue curve. The demand is also called the average revenue. Profit maximization is always, for any market structure, the point at which the marginal cost is equal to the marginal revenue, but they don't charge a lower price because it's a monopoly. They have market power. Hence, they charge a price along the demand curve. And the difference between the price and the minimum point of the average total cost curve is going to give you a profit for this particular firm. All right. Then for monopolistic competition, the way I think about this, right? I'm going to talk about it in more detail just now, where I compare monopolistic competition to perfect competition. The name is what confuses most students. I always make a joke to my students to say, every time I ask a question on monopolistic competition, one or two of you guys always talk about monopoly. I always make a bet, which I always win. But it's one of those things that you wish you lose the bet, but you always do. You always win it. But monopolistic competition is actually much closer to perfect competition than it is to a monopoly. This is a very competitive market structure. The word monopoly in this instance for monopolistic competition comes from the uniqueness of the products that are being sold. The products are heterogeneous, which is different from perfect competition because that one is homogeneous. So this is heterogeneous. What this means is that the products are differentiated, they are different. Each product is unique, even though the products are substitutes. Like perfect competition, there are many firms. Once you have many firms, that market structure is competitive. The entry into the market is free. There's free entry in the market. Information is incomplete. The information is incomplete. Collusion is not possible. The firms are too many, so this is not possible, like perfect competition. So impossible. It's impossible. The market power, in this instance, the firms have some market power because of the uniqueness of their product, but it's not as strong as as monopoly. So the firms have some market power. They have some market power. The demand curve is downward sloping, and yes, they make in the long run, like a competitive market, they make no more profit in the long run, which is zero economic profit. All right, so they make no more profit in the long run, which is zero economic profit. Right. The diagram for monopolistic competition is very similar to that of, it's actually the same thing. So I'm not going to waste too much time going through this, but in the short run, these firms can make economic profit, and the graph is the same as monopoly. It's going to look like this. Quantity here, the demand is the average revenue. The marginal revenue falls below here. That's the marginal revenue. All right, marginal revenue, and the average total cost curve look like this. The marginal cost would be something like this, where your marginal cost meets your marginal revenue is the profit maximizing level of output here. Marginal revenue, marginal cost, and this is the profit maximizing level of output. You go all the way up until you touch the demand curve to take this price. The minimum point of the average total cost curve is here. Then this difference is the average total cost for a monopolistic firm, or for a firm in a monopolistic competition. You see, this is the minimum point of the average total cost curve. It is the same as a perfectly competitive market. Even though the graph looks similar to as a monopoly, my apologies, it looks like a monopoly. But monopolistic competition is actually more competitive. than monopoly. All right. So I said I'll make this comparison. You see, in this instance, you see that the number of firms for both perfect competition and monopolistic, both of these are competitive. So these are many. These are many. Number of firms in both markets, there are many. It's just here where the difference comes in, where for perfect competition, the products are exactly the same. They are homogeneous. And monopolistic competition, the products are different. They are heterogeneous. They are heterogeneous. Right. Entry in both markets is going to be free. There's free entry and exit in both markets. Collusion is impossible for both markets. So it's impossible. Collusion is impossible for this market. Collusion is impossible for this market. In the long run, profit for both of them are normal. Here it's normal, and here it's also normal. Right? However, there is a difference in the long run economic profit for these firms. The normal profit, perfect competition is efficient. Monopolistic competition is not efficient, but I'll explain how in a moment. But you see from this comparison that monopolistic competition is actually competitive, as opposed to perfect competition. All right, is competitive as opposed to monopoly. Okay, so for monopolistic competition, the long run is such that firms can freely enter or leave the market. But because firms can enter a market, and the ones that are already there are making economic profits, more firms enter the market. As more firms enter the market, it shifts the demand curve down. Okay, there's a fall in demand for each firm because of that increase in competition. Each firm has less customers, and that shift downwards of the demand curve is going to result in the firms making zero economic profit in the long run, or no more profit. So for monopolistic competition, I usually draw both of them on the same graph, but the graph looks a bit crowded. Let me do that, and you guys will try split them. Let me put the price and cost here. Price and cost here. And then the quantity here. Let's put the demand here, which is average revenue. The marginal revenue is here. Okay. Average total cost here. Marginal cost here. Where the marginal revenue meets the marginal cost, this point here is the profit maximizing level of output. We go all the way up till we touch the demand curve. This is the price that is charged, right? Now, what happens is, as more firms enter the market, the demand for this particular firm is going to fall. The demand continues to fall until it just touches this average total cost curve. So this becomes the demand curve. So this becomes the demand curve, which is the average revenue curve. This is the demand in average revenue, which is shifted from this point. It is shifted down. When this demand shifts down like that, the marginal revenue is also going to shift down. Right? The marginal revenue is also going to shift down until you get to a point where you touch here. You touch this point here. This becomes the price in the long run, which is lower, and this becomes the lower quantity in the long run. All right. So what you see is that in the long run, the firm is making no more profit, yes, but it is not minimizing it's not minimizing its cost, because the minimum point for the cost would be somewhere here. It's not minimizing its cost, and hence it is not efficient. There's a dead weight loss associated with monopolistic competition in the long run, even though they are making no more profit. They're making no more profit, just like competitive markets. All right, so this is what the graph would look like. Yeah, you guys can practice doing this. In oligopoly, now I'm going to just quickly talk about an oligopoly in terms of the um, characteristics we spoke about earlier, and then I'll draw a graph to explain the oligopoly further. An oligopoly is a market structure in which there are a few firms that dominate. So the firms are few, and these few firms they are competitive in a way that if one firm makes a decision, that elicits a response from the other firms, so the other firms are likely to respond. All right, a oligopoly market structure, there are barriers to enter and leave the market. There are barriers to enter and leave the market, and also these firms are likely to make economic profit in the long run. They are likely to make economic profit in the long run. The demand curve for an oligopoly would look something like this. So let's say this is the price here and this is the quantity. The demand curve is going to look like this. This is called the kinked demand curve. This is called a kink. This I here. This is called a kinked demand curve. It is a kink here where the price is. This is a kink. You can see from this graph on the top part, it is the slope is lower, which means we have it's elastic at the top here, and at the bottom it's inelastic, it's steeper, so it's flatter on top, inelastic at the bottom. Hence the firms cannot increase their price. If they increase their price, they go to the sensitive part here where they will lose customers when it becomes expensive. So it's a bad idea to increase the price. If they reduce the price, it falls to the inelastic part where the firms, whether or not the price has changed, people don't change their buying behavior, and hence they lose money because they've reduced the price, but people still buy the same quantity. Hence they are stuck with this price here. If they're stuck with this price, they have to look at other ways that they can compete with their competitors, which does not have to do with price, like loyalty, for example. All right. Oligopoly and monopolistic competition are the most dominant market structure in most economies. You know, like the banks, you have a few banks that dominate some markets, and your banks like Barclays, Standard Bank, and so forth. These banks are a few, and the products that they sell are either homogeneous or heterogeneous, and these firms have some market power, which means they are making economic profits in the short run and in the long run. And if you look at your clothing brands, there are many, or your food outlets, KFC, McDonald's, whatever, you guys would know. These are a lot of firms which sell products that are differentiated, heterogeneous. They are substitutes. Hence, this market structure is monopolistic competition. All right. And hence, the final thing that you have to be able to do is to compare all of these market structures. We have talked about this in detail. Take a look at these slides. What I've done is I've written them starting from the very competitive. So perfect competition is the highly competitive one, and then monopolistic competition is the second. So it's also very competitive. Oligopoly is not as competitive, and monopoly is not competitive at all. So the degree of market power is increasing in this direction. It's becoming less and less competitive in this direction, with the highest, most competitive to the least competitive. All right. So this is like a summary of everything we've talked about throughout this section. And lastly, there are practice opportunities. The first one, I want you to look at this graph and answer these questions on what is the profit maximizing level of output, what price would this monopoly charge, and what is the economic profit calculated, how much profit does the firm make, and also compare monopolistic competition and perfect competition in the long run. So good luck. I will make another video for us to discuss this practice opportunity. I'll catch you guys later on my next video. Cheers.